The alien queen's daughter hadn't eaten in 2 weeks until the new janitor human did the impossible. The silence in the royal medical bay of Station Nexus. 7 wasn't peaceful. It was a kind of silence that screamed, a held breath before a universe collapsed. For 14 days, the infant Princess Sarah of the Calixian Empire had refused food. Not a drop of nutrient serum. Not a bite of synthesized protein. Not even the crystallized starfruit from her home world. Flown across 3 galaxies at impossible expense. She simply wouldn't eat. The child lay motionless in her bio-cradle, her luminescent skin, once radiant with swirls of violet and gold, now pale as moonlight through fog. Her tiny chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. Her eyes, large and dark as nebulae, stared at nothing. Dozens of the galaxy's finest doctors stood helpless. Alien physicians from 12 worlds, specialists in pediatric xenobiology, geneticists, psychologists, empaths, even a Vorathian mind healer who could read cellular memory. None of them understood. Her body was healthy. Her organs functioned. Her neural patterns were normal, but her spirit, her essence, was fading like a dying star. And in the corner of that cold, sterile room, clutching a simple glass bottle filled with something no one else had thought to bring, stood a human janitor named Ethan Mitchell. No one noticed him. No one ever did. But Ethan noticed everything. Before we dive into this incredible journey of how one janitor saved an alien empire with nothing but empathy and a bottle of warm milk, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what Ethan is about to do will shock everyone in that room, including a queen who's been searching the stars for him. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Station Nexus. 7 wasn't just a space station. It was a symbol, a gleaming monument to interspecies cooperation, orbiting the neutral moon of Tauros Prime. Diplomats from 40 worlds lived and worked here. Trade agreements were signed. Peace treaties negotiated. Cultural exchanges celebrated. But today, none of that mattered. Today, the station held its breath as a child died in slow motion. Ethan Mitchell had worked here for 8 months. He was invisible, the way maintenance workers always are. He mopped floors that important people walked on. He emptied trash bins filled with discarded treaties. He polished windows that framed distant stars. He wore a gray jumpsuit. He kept his head down. He never spoke unless spoken to. And he carried a weight no one could see. In the pocket of his jumpsuit was a photograph, worn at the edges, faded from being touched too many times. A little girl with brown curls and a gap-toothed smile. Emma, his daughter, dead for 3 years now. A shuttle accident on Europa that took her and her mother in a flash of fire and vacuum. Ethan didn't talk about it. Didn't talk about much of anything. He just cleaned and remembered and tried not to feel. But when Queen Lysera arrived on the station 2 weeks ago with her infant daughter, something inside Ethan stirred. The Calixian queen was a sight to behold. Nearly 7 feet tall, with skin that shimmered like oil on water, violet gold, deep blue shifting with her emotions. Her eyes were solid silver, unblinking, ancient. She moved like a blade through silk, graceful, lethal, untouchable. She commanded fleets. She ruled star systems. She had negotiated the Treaty of the Frozen Suns and ended a war that had raged for 2 centuries. But when she looked at her daughter, Princess Sarah, she was just a mother, a terrified mother. The crisis began suddenly. One morning, Sarah simply refused her feeding. The royal nursemaids thought it was a phase. But the next day, she refused again. And the next. And the next. By day 7, alarm spread through the Calixian delegation. By day 10, it became a galactic incident. Queen Lysera summoned every expert she could find. She opened the royal coffers. She made promises. She made threats. But nothing worked. Sarah wouldn't eat, and no one knew why. Ethan watched it all from the edges. He saw the queen's desperation, the way her shimmering skin darkened to storm cloud gray. He saw the diplomats whispering in corners, already preparing for succession protocols. He saw the doctors arguing in tense huddles, their pride wounded by a mystery they couldn't solve. But mostly he saw Sarah, The little princess with her fading light. And he saw something no one else did. He saw Emma. Emma used to stop eating when she was scared, or lonely, or when she felt unloved, which happened sometimes when Ethan worked double shifts and came home too tired to read her bedtime stories. She didn't need food in those moments. She needed comfort. She needed to feel safe. She needed someone to see her, not as a problem to solve, but as a person who hurt. Ethan had learned to recognize that look in his daughter's eyes. The hollow, distant stare. The quiet withdrawal. And he saw it now in Princess Sarah. On the 14th day, Ethan stood outside the medical bay during his shift. He wasn't supposed to be there. Janitors had no clearance for royal spaces. But he'd overheard the guards talking. They said the Queen had given up, that she was preparing to say goodbye. Something inside Ethan cracked. He couldn't save Emma. But maybe, he went to the station's tiny commissary. He found a small pot. Real milk, expensive, imported from Earth. Honey from new Terran hives. He heated it slowly, carefully, the way he used for Emma. The smell filled the small kitchen. Sweet, warm, utterly human. And Ethan poured it into a simple glass bottle. Ethan stood outside the medical bay doors, clutching the bottle, his heart hammered. This is insane, he thought. You're a janitor. You have no right, no authority, no reason to think this will work. But he thought of Emma's voice, small and scared. Daddy, it doesn't taste like you love me. And he thought of the way warm milk with honey always brought her back. He pressed the door panel. It shouldn't have opened. His clearance was level 2, and this was a level 9 restricted zone. But in the chaos of crisis, someone had forgotten to lock it down. The door slid open. Ethan stepped inside. The room was crowded. 30 people, maybe more. Doctors, guards, diplomats, all of them arguing in low, tense voices. And at the center, standing over the bio cradle, was Queen Lysera. Her back was to him. Her shoulders trembled, barely visible, but Ethan saw it. Even queens broke. No one noticed him enter. He took 3 steps forward. Then a Calixian guard, a towering figure in ceremonial armor, spotted him. Halt! The guard's voice boomed. This area is restricted. Identify yourself. Every head turned. Ethan froze. 40 pairs of eyes locked onto him. Alien, human, hybrid, all of them staring at the janitor in the gray jumpsuit holding a glass bottle. Queen Lysera turned slowly. Her silver eyes found his. For a moment, the universe held still. Who are you? She asked. Her voice was low, dangerous, the kind of voice that had ordered executions. Ethan swallowed hard. I'm no one, Your Majesty. I clean the floors. Then why are you here? Ethan looked past her to the cradle, to Sarah. The little princess's eyes were open, barely, but they were looking at him. Because Ethan said quietly, I think I know what she needs. A murmur rippled through the room. A human doctor stepped forward. Dr. Yashiro, head of Xenopediatrics. With respect, Your Majesty, this man has no medical training. No. Credentials. He's a father, Ethan interrupted. The room went silent. Ethan's voice was steady now. I was a father. My daughter, she used to stop eating too. When she was scared. When she felt alone. He looked at Queen Lysera. Your daughter's body is fine, but her heart is starving. Queen Lysera stared at him. Then, slowly, she stepped aside. Show me. Ethan approached the bio cradle with careful steps, as though walking through sacred ground. Princess Sarah lay perfectly still, her tiny body wrapped in shimmering fabric that seemed woven from starlight itself. Her breathing was shallow. Her skin had lost almost all its luminescence. Just faint traces of violet remained, like bruises on porcelain. But her eyes followed him. Dark, ancient, aware. Ethan knelt beside the cradle. Bringing himself to her level, he set the bottle down gently on the edge of the medical platform. Hi there, sweetheart, he whispered. His voice wasn't commanding. It wasn't clinical. It was soft, broken, human. Sarah blinked slowly. Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out the photograph. Emma's smiling face, worn and precious. "This is my daughter," he said quietly. "Her name was Emma. She was about your age when I lost her." The room was utterly silent. Every doctor, every diplomat, every guard, they all watched, frozen. Queen Lysera stood 5 feet away, her silver eyes locked on the janitor and her child. "Emma used to get scared sometimes," Ethan continued, his voice thick with memory. "She'd stop eating, stop talking, just disappear inside herself. And I'd make her something special, something warm, something that said, 'I love you, you're safe, you're not alone.'" He picked up the bottle. The milk inside glowed faintly golden in the medical bay's lights, the honey swirling through it like liquid sunlight. "I don't know if your biology can handle this," Ethan said honestly, looking up at Queen Lysera. "I don't know if it'll work, but I know what it means." He held the bottle towards Sarah. "It means someone sees you, someone cares, someone chose to sit with you in the dark." Sarah's eyes focused on the bottle. Then, for the first time in 14 days, she moved. Her tiny hand, 3-fingered, delicate, luminescent, reached up. The room gasped. Ethan guided the bottle to her lips. The nipple was improvised, adapted from a standard infant feeder. But it worked. Sarah's mouth opened. She drank. The first drop of warm milk touched her tongue, and something extraordinary happened. Color flooded back into her skin, violet chasing away the pallor, gold threading through like dawn breaking. Her eyes brightened. Her chest expanded with a deeper breath. She drank again, and again. The honey-sweetened milk disappeared steadily as Princess Sarah fed for the first time in 2 weeks. Around the room, hardened diplomats wept. Doctors stared in disbelief. Guards stood at attention, witnessing a miracle they couldn't explain. And Queen Lysera, the woman who had conquered star systems, who had stared down warlords and never flinched, fell to her knees beside Ethan. Her hand covered her mouth. Her silver eyes flooded with tears that shimmered like mercury. "How?" she whispered. "How did you know?" Ethan didn't look away from Sarah. He kept the bottle steady, his hand gentle, as the princess drank and drank. "Because I failed once," he said quietly. "I won't fail again." Dr. Yashiro stepped forward, scanning Sarah with a medical tricorder. His face went pale. "Her cellular regeneration is accelerating. Neural activity is spiking. Chemical balance is normalizing. This shouldn't be possible. The composition of that milk is love," Ethan said simply. The doctor stared at him. "It's not the milk," Ethan continued. "It's the intent. It's the choice to see her as more than problem. She's not a diplomatic crisis. She's not a political symbol. She's a scared little girl who needed someone to care." Sarah finished the bottle. She released a nipple, her small chest rising and falling in steady, healthy breaths. Her skin now glowed with full radiance, violet, gold, and traces of soft blue dancing across her tiny form. And then she did something no one expected. She reached for Ethan, her 3-fingered hand extended toward him, opening and closing the universal gesture of a child wanting to be held. Ethan froze. "May I?" he whispered, looking at Queen Lysera. The queen nodded, unable to speak. Ethan carefully lifted Princess Sarah from a bio-cradle. She was lighter than he expected, her body warm and humming with energy. She nestled against his chest, her head resting over his heart, and she sighed, a sound of pure contentment. Ethan closed his eyes. Tears slipped down his weathered face. For the first time in 3 years, the weight in his chest eased. "She feels safe with you," Queen Lysera said softly. Her voice trembled. "She hasn't felt safe since we left our home world." Ethan opened his eyes. "Why did you leave?" The queen's expression darkened. "War. Our enemies attacked the royal birthing chambers. We barely escaped. Sarah was only 6 days old when we fled. She's lived her entire life in transit, in ships, stations, temporary shelters. Never a home, never stability." She looked at her daughter, now peaceful in a stranger's arms. "She stopped eating because she was grieving," Lysera continued. "Grieving for a home she's never known, for safety she's never felt." Ethan rocked gently, instinctively, the way he used to rock Emma. Then we'll make her feel it now, he said. Quick pause. Have you ever felt invisible, like no one really saw you? Drop a red heart in the comments if you've been there. And tell us, where in the world are you watching from right now? We read every single comment and love hearing from you. Over the next 3 days, something unprecedented unfolded on Station Nexus 7. Princess Sarah continued to recover, not just physically, but emotionally. She ate regularly now, but only when Ethan prepared her meals, only when he held her, only when he sang to her in his rough, untrained voice, old Earth lullabies that Emma had loved. The royal physicians were baffled. The diplomatic corps was scandalized. A human janitor had become indispensable to an alien empire's future. But Queen Lysera understood. She watched Ethan with her daughter, and she saw something she'd been searching for across 100 worlds. Genuine care. Not duty. Not politics. Not strategy. Just love. On the third evening, she found Ethan in the observation deck, a quiet space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the stars. He sat cross-legged on the floor, Princess Sarah asleep in his lap, wrapped in a blanket he brought from his quarters. "May I join you?" Lysera asked. Ethan looked up, startled. "Of course, Your Majesty." "Lysera," she corrected gently. "Please." She sat beside him, a queen in flowing robes, sitting on the floor with a janitor in a worn jumpsuit. For a long moment, they simply existed in comfortable silence. "You saved her life," Lysera said finally. Ethan shook his head. "I just gave her what she needed, which is what every parent should do. Yet I couldn't." Her voice cracked. "I am a queen. I command millions. And I couldn't feed my own child." "You were trying to save her with your head," Ethan said gently. "She needed you to save her with your heart." Lysera looked at him, truly looked, not as a janitor, not as a human, but as a man who had suffered and survived. "You loved your daughter very much," she said. "I still do." Ethan's hand rested protectively on Sarah's back. Love doesn't stop when someone dies. It just has nowhere to go. Lysara's silver eyes shimmered. "Among my people, we have a saying, Kale Shira Metancor, the heart finds what the soul has lost." She reached out slowly and placed her hand over Ethan's, the one resting on Sarah's back. "I think," she whispered, "my daughter's soul found you." Ethan's breath caught. In that moment, with the stars stretching infinite beyond the windows and a sleeping alien princess in his arms, and a queen's hand warm over his own, Ethan felt something he thought had died with Emma. Hope. "I don't understand what's happening," he admitted. "Neither do I," Lysera said. "But I know it's important. I know it's right." Sarah stirred in her sleep, making a small, contented sound. Both adults smiled. "What was she like?" Lysera asked. "Your Emma." Ethan's eyes grew distant, but not painfully so. Stubborn. Curious. She asked a million questions about everything. She wanted to be an explorer when she grew up, wanted to see every planet, every star. He laughed softly. "She would have loved meeting you. I wish I could have met her." "Me too." They sat together until Sarah woke, hungry and reaching for Ethan with complete trust. And watching from the shadows of the corridor, Dr. Yashiro made a note in his personal log. "Cultural exchange protocols insufficient to explain bond formation. Recommend psychological evaluation, though I suspect science has no answers here. This is something older, something we've forgotten in our pursuit of progress, the power of one person choosing to care." Over the following days, Station Nexus 7 buzzed with rumors. The human janitor who saved the princess. The queen who sat with him like an equal. The child who wouldn't eat for anyone else. Ethan's life transformed overnight. Diplomats greeted him in hallways. Guards nodded with respect. Even the station commander requested a meeting, an apology for overlooking him, an offer of official recognition. But Ethan declined it all. "I'm not doing this for recognition," he told Commander Solace. "I'm doing it because it's right." Still, changes came whether he wanted them or not. Queen Lysera assigned him quarters near the royal suite. She provided him with proper clothing, though he still wore his gray jumpsuit most days. She invited him to meals to strategy sessions, to private moments with Sarah, they became an unlikely trio. And the galaxy watched with fascination. On the 7th day, everything changed. It was evening in the royal suite. Ethan sat in a comfortable chair, Princess Sarah in his lap, reading to her from a datapad, an Earth story about a lost rabbit finding her way home. Queen Sarah stood at the window, gazing at the stars, her silhouette regal and lonely. "Ethan," she said quietly, not turning around, "I need to tell you something." He looked up. "Of course." She was silent for a long moment, her fingers pressed against the transparent aluminum. "Before Sarah was born," she began, her voice careful, measured, "I had dreams, vivid dreams. In my culture, such dreams are considered prophecies, messages from the ancestors, glimpses of destiny." Ethan listened. Sarah snuggled against his chest. "I dreamed of a man," Sarah continued, "a man from a world I'd never visited, a man with kind eyes and callous hands, and a heart full of grief." She turned slowly to face him. "A man who tasted like home." Ethan's breath caught. "In the dreams, this man held my daughter. He fed her. He sang to her. And when he did, the war ended. The empire healed. Our people found peace. I've been searching for him for 2 years," Sarah whispered. "I've visited 70 worlds. I met with ambassadors, soldiers, traders, scholars. I thought he might be a diplomat, a doctor, a warrior." She stepped toward Ethan, her silver eyes locked on his. "I never imagined he'd be a janitor on a border station." Ethan stared at her, his mind reeling. You think I'm the man from your dreams?" "I don't think," Sarah said, kneeling before him. "I know." She reached out slowly and placed her hand over his heart, the same gesture trust Sarah had made days ago. "I know because my daughter knew the moment she saw you," Sarah said. "She wouldn't eat because she was waiting for the one person who could give her what she truly needed. But I'm nobody," Ethan whispered. "I'm just—" "You're everything," Sarah interrupted fiercely. "You're proof that greatness isn't measured in titles or power. It's measured in choice, in compassion, in the willingness to see someone else's pain and choose to heal it." Tears streamed down Ethan's face. "I couldn't save Emma, but you saved Sarah." Lysara's voice broke. "And in saving her, you saved me." Princess Sarah stirred in Ethan's arms. She looked up at him with those vast, dark eyes that suddenly seemed far older than an infant should be. And she spoke, not in words. Sarah was too young for speech, but in the empathic way of her species. Her thoughts brushed against Ethan's mind like warm silk. "You taste like home. You smell like safety. You feel like the father I was meant to have." Ethan gasped. Sarah reached up and touched his face with her small, 3-fingered hand. "You are not invisible," her thoughts whispered. "You are seen. You are loved. You are ours." Ethan broke. He pulled Sarah close and wept. Deep, shuddering sobs had been locked inside him for 3 years. All the grief, all the guilt, all the loneliness and self-blame and desperate, aching love with nowhere to go. It poured out of him. And Queen Sarah wrapped her arms around them both, around the broken human and her precious daughter, and held them as the stars wheeled beyond the window. When Ethan finally quieted, when his breathing steadied and the tears slowed, Sarah spoke again. "There's more," she said gently. Ethan looked up, his eyes red and swollen. "In my dreams, the man who saved my daughter became my Kaelshan, my bonded partner, my co-ruler, my equal in all things." Ethan's heart stopped. "I'm not asking for an answer now," Sarah said quickly. "I know this is overwhelming. I know we barely know each other. But I needed you to understand what I see when I look at you." "What do you see?" Ethan whispered. Sarah smiled. A real smile, soft and wondering. "I see the man who will help me rebuild an empire on compassion instead of conquest. I see the father my daughter needs. I see my Kaelshan, the other half of my soul. I see home. If this twist just hit you in the feels, smash that like button thumbs up right now. It really helps us share more incredible stories like this one. And stick around, because the most emotional moment is still coming. But not everyone on Station Nexus 7 celebrated this revelation. In the diplomatic wing, Ambassador Thorn of the Calixian High Council convened an emergency meeting. "This is madness," he hissed to his assembled colleagues. "A human? As consort to the Queen? As stepfather to the heir?" Around the table, various alien dignitaries murmured agreement. "It's unprecedented," said Councillor Vex, a tall, crystalline being. "The royal bloodline has never mixed with another species. The people won't accept it. The people," Ambassador Thorn said coldly, "will follow tradition, and tradition demands that Queen Lysera take a mate from the noble houses, not a janitor." He spat the word like poison. "We must intervene," Vex agreed, "for the good of the Empire." They began to plot. Meanwhile, unaware of the gathering storm, Ethan experienced something he never thought he'd feel again: contentment. He spent his days with Sarah, feeding her, playing with her, teaching her simple games. She was thriving now, her laughter like chimes in the wind, her energy boundless. And he spent his evenings with Lysera. They talked for hours, about everything and nothing, about Earth and the Calixian homeworld, about loss and hope, about the weight of responsibility and the freedom of choice. Lysera taught him phrases in her language. Ethan taught her how to make pancakes in the station's small kitchen, a disaster that ended with flour everywhere and both of them laughing until they cried. It was domestic, normal, impossibly precious. "I never thought I'd laugh again," Ethan admitted one night. They sat on the floor of the observation deck, their spot now, with Sarah asleep between them. "Neither did I," Lysera said. "After the war began, after we lost our home, I forgot what joy felt like." She looked at him, her silver eyes soft. "Thank you for reminding me." Ethan reached out hesitantly. Lysera met him halfway, their fingers intertwined, human and alien, scarred and smooth, two broken people choosing to be whole together. "I want to say yes," Ethan whispered. Lysara's breath caught. "To what?" "To everything. To being Sarah's father. To being your Kaelshan. To whatever this is between us." He squeezed her hand. "But I'm terrified." "Of what?" "Of failing again. Of not being enough. Of losing everything a second time." Lysera shifted closer, until their shoulders touched. "Fear is wisdom," she said. "It means you understand the stakes. But don't let it steal your chance at happiness. What if I'm not the man from your dreams?" Ethan asked, "What if I disappoint you?" Lysera smiled. "You already are the man from my dreams. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. Because you chose to care when no one else did. Because you see my daughter, see me as people, not symbols." She brought his hand to her lips and kissed his scarred knuckles. "That's all I've ever wanted," she whispered, "to be seen." Ethan's resolve crystallized. "Then yes," he said. "Yes to all of it." Lysara's face broke into radiant joy. She cupped his face in her hands, her skin warm and shimmering, and pressed her forehead to his in the Calixian gesture of bonding. Energy passed between them, a spark of recognition, of rightness, of two souls finding their missing pieces. Sarah woke and cooed happily, as if she'd been waiting for this moment. The three of them sat together in the starlight, a family forged not by blood, but by choice. But in the shadows beyond the observation deck, Ambassador Thorn watched through a security feed. His expression was cold. "Send a message," he said to his aide. "Inform the High Council that Queen Lysera has been compromised. Invoke Protocol 7. The aide hesitated. "Your Excellency, Protocol 7 means." "I know what it means." Thorn snapped. "Do it. Protocol 7. Immediate removal of a monarch deemed unfit to rule. By force, if necessary." The alarm woke Ethan at 0400 hours. Red emergency lights flooded the royal suite. Sarah wailed in her crib. Queen Lysera was already on her feet, dressed in ceremonial armor that seemed to materialize from nowhere, black and violet, etched with glowing symbols. "What's happening?" Ethan demanded, scooping Sarah into his arms. "Coup," Lysera said grimly. She was strapping weapons to her body, energy blades, a plasma sidearm. "The High Council is invoking Protocol 7. They're coming to remove me from power. They can't do that. They can. Her voice was steel. And they will, unless I stop them. The door to the suite exploded inward. 6 Calixian royal guards stormed in. Not Lysara's personal guard, but council soldiers. Their weapons were drawn. "Queen Lysara," the lead soldier announced, his voice amplified and cold. "By order of the High Council, you are relieved of your crown and title. You will surrender custody of Princess Sarah and submit to judgment." Lysara stepped in front of Ethan and Sarah, her body a shield. "On what grounds?" she demanded. "Contamination of the royal bloodline. Consorting with inferior species. Endangering the succession." "Inferior?" Lysara's voice dropped to a lethal whisper. Her skin began to glow, violet deepening to near black, gold turning to hot white. "The man you call inferior saved my daughter's life when all of your superior experts failed. He showed more wisdom, more compassion, more strength than any noble in the council chambers." The lead soldier raised his weapon. "Stand aside, your majesty. This doesn't have to end in bloodshed." "You're right," Lysara said. "It doesn't." She moved. One moment she was standing still. The next, she was a blur of motion, faster than Ethan's eyes could follow. Energy blades sang through the air. Soldiers fell, stunned but alive, their weapons clattering to the floor. In 15 seconds, it was over. Lysara stood in the center of the room, breathing hard, surrounded by unconscious guards. "We need to move," she said. "More will come." They ran, through the royal wing, down maintenance corridors, Lysara leading the way with Sarah clutched to Ethan's chest. The princess was terrified, her small body trembling, but she didn't cry, as if she understood that silence meant survival. "Where are we going?" Ethan gasped. "The council chambers," Lysara said. "If I can address the full council, invoke my rights as queen, I can stop this. And if you can't?" She didn't answer. They burst into a transport lift. Lysara slammed her hand on the control panel, overriding the system with her biometric signature. The lift rocketed upward. "Ethan," Lysara said, her voice suddenly soft. "If this goes wrong, if they take me, you have to run. Take Sarah. There's an Earth Embassy ship docked at Bay 12. They'll give you asylum. I'm not leaving you. You have to." She grabbed his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. "Sarah needs you. She'll die without you. Please." "No," Ethan said firmly. "We're family now. We stay together." Lysara's eyes flooded with tears, but also with fierce pride. "Kaelshan," she whispered, "my bonded heart." The lift doors opened. The council chambers were massive, a circular amphitheater with seats rising in tiers around a central platform. Hundreds of dignitaries filled the space, representing every world in the Calixian sphere. At the center platform stood Ambassador Thorn, draped in ceremonial robes of judgment. "Queen Lysara," he announced, his voice echoing. "You have been summoned to—" "I summon myself," Lysara interrupted, striding onto platform. Ethan followed, Sarah in his arms. "And I invoke the right of Calmeter, trial by testimony before the full council." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Thorn's expression soured. "That right is archaic." "But still law," Lysara said coldly. "Or does the High Council now ignore its own traditions?" Thorn had no choice. "Very well. State your defense." Lysara stood tall, her armor gleaming under the chamber lights. "I stand accused of contaminating the royal bloodline," she began. "Of choosing a human as my Kaelshan. Of endangering my daughter and our empire." She paused, letting the weight settle. "I plead guilty to all of it." The chamber erupted in shock. "But I challenge the premise," Lysara continued, her voice rising above the chaos. "You call my choice contamination. I call it evolution. You call Ethan Mitchell inferior. I call him extraordinary." She gestured to Ethan. "This human did what none of you could. When my daughter was dying, when your doctors and specialists stood helpless, he saw what she truly needed. Not technology, not protocol, just love." Ethan stepped forward, his heart hammering. I'm nobody special, he said, his voice cracking. I'm not a diplomat or a warrior or a genius. I'm just a man who lost everything and found a reason to care again. He looked down at Sarah, who gazed up at him with complete trust. Princess Sarah didn't need someone important, Ethan continued. She needed someone present, someone who would sit with her in the dark and refuse to leave. He looked up at the council, at hundreds of alien faces watching him. If that makes me inferior, then I don't want to be anything else. Queen Lysera moved to stand beside him, her hand finding his. I am your queen, she said. I have led you through war. I have negotiated peace. I have sacrificed everything for our people. And now I ask you, will you trust me one more time? Silence filled the chamber. This human showed me something I'd forgotten, Lysera continued, her voice thick with emotion. He showed me that strength isn't about conquest. It's about compassion. That leadership isn't about control. It's about connection. She held up their joined hands. I choose Ethan Mitchell as my Kaelshan, not despite his humanity, but because of it, because he represents everything our empire should become: empathetic, inclusive, willing to see value in the overlooked. Ambassador Thorne stepped forward, his expression twisted. Beautiful words, Your Majesty, but the law is clear. Royal consorts must be. The law, a new voice interrupted, is subject to interpretation. An ancient Calixian elder emerged from the upper tiers. Counselor Resh, eldest member of the High Council. She moved slowly, leaning on a crystalline staff, her skin weathered with centuries of life. I have studied our laws for 400 years, Aresh said, and nowhere does it say a Kaelshan must be Calixian. It says they must be worthy. She pointed her staff at Ethan. This human saved our princess. He showed our queen mercy and understanding. He chose love over fear. Her ancient eyes swept the chamber. That is worthiness. That is honor. Another counselor stood, then another, then 10 more. I support Queen Lysara's choice, one declared. As do I, said another. And I. The tide was turning. Ambassador Thorne's face went purple with rage. You're fools. All of you. This will destroy. The only thing being destroyed, Counselor Aresh said coldly, is your ambition, Thorne. Sit down. Defeated, Thorne retreated. Counselor Aresh approached the platform and placed her hand on Ethan's head in blessing. Welcome, Ethan Mitchell, she said. Welcome to the Calixian Empire. Welcome to our family. The chamber erupted in cheers. Sarah laughed, bright and clear, and the sound filled the space like bells. Queen Lysera turned to Ethan, tears streaming down her radiant face. You are seen, she whispered. You are valued. You are ours. Ethan pulled her close, Sarah between them, and kissed her forehead. I'm home, he said. The formal bonding ceremony took place 3 days later. It was held in the station's central garden, a massive biodome filled with plants from 100 worlds. Flowers bloomed in impossible colors. Trees stretched toward artificial suns. The air smelled of growth and possibility. Ethan stood at the altar in simple but elegant robes, gray and gold, honoring both his humble origins and his new role. Queen Lysera approached in traditional ceremonial dress, flowing violet fabric that shimmered like water, a crown of living starlight woven through her hair. She was breathtaking. But what took Ethan's breath away wasn't her beauty. It was the way she looked at him, with absolute certainty, with fierce joy, with love that needed no translation. Counselor Aresh officiated. Before the ancestors and the stars, she intoned, we witnessed the bonding of 2 souls. Queen Lysera of the Calixian Empire and Ethan Mitchell of Earth, 2 beings who chose each other across the vastness of space. She tied their hands together with a glowing cord. Speak your vows. Lysera went first, her voice steady and sure. Ethan, Kaelshan, beloved, I vow to see you always, to honor your grief and your joy, to build with you a home worthy of our daughter, to rule not with power, but with compassion, to choose you every day, for all my days. Ethan's voice shook, but he spoke from the heart. Lysera, I don't have fancy words. I'm not a poet or a king, but I vow to protect you, to support you, To love Sarah as my own, to be present, even when it's hard, to choose this family, this life, this incredible gift I never thought I'd have again. Then, by the light of stars and strength of choice, Counselor Resh declared, I pronounce you bonded. Kale Shira Metenkor, the heart finds what the soul has lost. Ethan and Lysera kissed, a gentle press of lips, a promise sealed. The gathered crowd erupted in celebration, and Princess Sarah, held by a beaming attendant, clapped her tiny hands and laughed. 1 year later, Station Nexus 7 had changed. Where once cold efficiency ruled every corridor, warmth now flourished. The sterile medical bays had been redesigned with input from human psychologists, softer lighting, comfortable seating, toys for frightened children. The diplomatic quarters now included family spaces. The cafeteria served food from 100 worlds, prepared with care rather than mere nutrition in mind. It was still a space station, still a hub of interspecies cooperation, but now it felt like home. At the center of this transformation stood Ethan Mitchell. He no longer wore a janitor's gray jumpsuit. Instead, he dressed in the formal robes of a royal consort, though he insisted on keeping them practical, with pockets for Sarah's toys and snacks. His official title was Prince Consort and Director of Interspecies Family Services, a position created specifically for him, recognizing that empathy and emotional intelligence were just as vital as military strategy or economic policy. He'd helped draft new protocols for child welfare across the empire. He'd established training programs for caretakers, teaching them to recognize emotional trauma in alien children. He'd personally intervened in 17 cases of neglect or abuse, using his unique perspective to see what others missed. The galaxy watched with fascination as this former janitor reshaped an empire's values from the inside out. On a bright morning, or what passed for morning in space, Ethan sat in the royal garden with Princess Sarah. She was walking now, toddling on her 3-toed feet with determined grace. Her skin glowed bright with health, violet, gold, and traces of soft blue that appeared when she was happy. Papa, Papa, she called, her first language a delightful mix of Calixian and English. Look, flower. She held up a blossom she'd picked, a delicate thing with petals like stained glass. It's beautiful, sweetheart, Ethan said, his heart swelling. Just like you. Sarah beamed and threw herself into his arms. Ethan caught her, laughing, and spun her around as she shrieked with joy. Higher, higher. Your Highness, came a warm voice. I believe you're spoiling our daughter. Ethan turned to see Queen Lysera approaching, radiant in casual day robes. She'd softened over the past year, laughed more easily, smiled more often. The weight of war and loss still marked her, but it no longer defined her. She deserves to be spoiled, Ethan said, setting Sarah down. Lysera wrapped her arms around him from behind, resting her chin on his shoulder, a gesture of affection that would have been unthinkable a year ago for a Calixian queen. But Lysera had learned from Ethan that vulnerability wasn't weakness. It was connection. I have news, she murmured against his ear. Good news or bad news? Good. She turned him to face her, her silver eyes sparkling. The council approved your proposal. We're establishing compassion centers on 37 worlds. Places where children and families can receive emotional support, not just medical treatment. Ethan's eyes widened. All 37? I thought they'd start with 5, maybe 10. Your work speaks for itself, Lysera interrupted. The pilot program showed a 73% reduction in childhood trauma markers. The council can't ignore results like that. She cupped his face tenderly. You're changing our empire, Kaelshan, one kind act at a time. Ethan shook his head, humbled. We're changing it. Together. Together, Lysera agreed and kissed him softly. Sarah made a disgusted sound. EW, kissing. They laughed and scooped her up between them, creating a family sandwich that made Sarah giggle uncontrollably. That evening, Ethan returned to a place he hadn't visited in months. The observation deck where he'd first held Princess Sarah, where he'd first felt hope again. He stood at the window, watching the stars will slowly past. In his pocket, he still carried the photograph of Emma, worn, faded, precious. He pulled it out and looked at her smiling face. "Hey, baby girl," he whispered. "I hope you be proud of me. I hope you like Sarah, your little sister, in a way. She's amazing. Stubborn like you. Curious like you." His throat tightened. "I didn't think I'd ever be happy again after I lost you. I thought the best parts of me died with you and your mom. But then I met a scared little alien princess and a queen who saw me when no one else did, and I learned something." He pressed the photograph to his chest. "Love doesn't die. It transforms. It finds new places to grow. And I hope you want to be happy, to live, to love again." A tear slipped down his cheek. "I miss you every day. But I'm okay now. Better than okay. I have a family, a purpose, a home. Thank you for teaching me how to care," he whispered. "Everything good I do now, I learned from being your father." He carefully returned the photograph to his pocket, not hiding it, but keeping it safe, keeping Emma close to his heart where she would always belong. Behind him, the door whispered open. Lysera entered quietly, respecting his moment but offering her presence. "She would have loved you," Ethan said without turning around. "I wish I could have known her," Lysera said, moving to stand beside him. She took his hand. "But I know her through you, through your kindness, through the way you love Sarah." "Emma made me a father," Ethan said. "Sarah gave me the chance to be one again. And Sarah gave us everything." They stood together, looking out at the infinite stars. "Do you ever regret it?" Ethan asked quietly. "Choosing me? The scandal? The political cost?" "Never," Lysera interrupted fiercely. She turned him to face her. "You are the best choice I ever made. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. Because you chose to see a dying child and refuse to look away." She pressed her forehead to his, the Calixian bond gesture they shared every day now. "You taught me that strength isn't about never breaking," she whispered. "It's about choosing to heal, to grow, to love, even when it terrifies you." "You taught me the same thing," Ethan said. They held each other as the universe stretched around them, two souls who found each other across impossible distances. Later that night, Ethan checked on Sarah one last time before sleep. She lay in her bed, a specially designed sleeping pod that mimicked the bioluminescent caves of the Calixian homeworld. Her skin glowed softly in the darkness, peaceful and content. Ethan knelt beside her, brushing a gentle hand across her forehead. "Sleep well, princess," he whispered. Sarah's eyes fluttered open sleepily. She reached for him, her small hand finding his. "Love you, Papa," she murmured. Ethan's heart broke and healed in the same moment, the way it did every time she called him that. "I love you too, sweetheart, more than all the stars." She smiled, already drifting back to sleep. Ethan stood and moved to the door, where Lysera waited. Together, they walked to their own chambers, a suite that blended Calixian elegance with human comfort. Their home. As Ethan laid down beside his wife, his queen, his Kaelshan, he felt something he thought lost forever. Peace. Not the absence of pain. The scars would always be there. But the presence of purpose, of love, of family. He'd been invisible for so long. But now he was seen. And that made all the difference. And that's how one janitor's simple act of kindness saved a princess, won a queen's heart, and changed 3 civilizations forever. Now we want to hear from you. Which moment hit you the hardest? Was it when Ethan first fed Sarah? When the queen revealed her dreams? Or that beautiful ending? Have you ever been someone's unexpected hero? Or has someone been yours? What alien world or emotional journey should we explore next? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one and reply to as many as we can. If this story moved you, please do 3 things right now. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this with someone who needs to hear it love letter. And don't go anywhere. We've handpicked more incredible stories you'll love on the end screen. Click one and keep the emotional journey going. Remember, in a universe of billions, sometimes all it takes is one person who truly sees you. Until next time, keep believing in the power of compassion. This is Black Horizon HFY, where humanity's greatest strength is its heart. Red heart, See you in the next story.